As RJ mentioned, my name is Ariel Harris, and I was the Triggs International Fellows of San Salvador, Bahamas, and Nassau, Bahamas. And if I can't see y'all, I don't have my glasses on. San Salvador is about right here, and I made 2 visits there, one in December 2011 and one in December 2012, which is where I conducted my Cornell Fellowship, And this is Nassau, where I conducted archival research at the National Archives of the Bahamas, and I'll go a little bit in detail further on throughout the presentation of what I learned and what I obtained at these sites. So I'm going to give you a little bit. My project and my fellowship is a little bit different from normal. I didn't do any work, any interning, and I wasn't paid for anything. Well, the fellowship paid me to go out there and do a lot of good research. The purpose of this fellowship was to complete my senior thesis, and this was an expansion of a course I completed in December 2011. It was about a 10-page paper in which I wrote from the perspective of a slave, a fictional slave narrative. And it basically expanded into a almost 40-page thesis, and the beginning portion of that thesis entails Bahamian history, slave culture, Bahamian slave economy from the early 16th century to about 1834 when slavery ended in the Bahamas. The primary source document we used in December 2011, which was also essential in December 2012, was a relic of slavery written by Charles Farquharson, which was his journal. It's mostly a work log. So through a lot of research and analytical thinking and a creative writing, I expanded that and created my own slave narrative using his journal as a model. I'm going to tell you about the protagonist of my fictional narrative, which is the second portion of my thesis. Matilda was the house cook of Charles Farquharson. He purchased her in 1825, and that's all I knew about her in December 2011. So the purpose of the fellowship was to go back to Nassau, Bahamas, where the National Archives of the Bahamas is located, and to find out more about her background, where she came before she ended up on San Salvador, what type of skills or work as a slave she did prior to. This bakery here is the bakery on San Salvador, Bahamas, where she, as the house cook, would have worked and made meals for the slave master and slaves every day. And you're gonna get a zoomed in picture where you can see Charles Farquharson was the only slave owner who had an imported oven from Italy, where he had special bread baked for him and his family members. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my process in writing here at the bakery and what developed from those experiences. A little bit more on the archives, which is located in Nassau. With the fellowship, I went there for 3 days in December, and then I went to San Salvador again, and then I went back to Nassau for 8 days. And the purpose of the archives is to preserve historical documents. They have documents all the way up from like 1600s on down to recent births, deaths, and land registers. But an act of parliament established the National Archives in 1971, and a lot of the documents are on microfilm and not a lot of digital technology there, but most of their things are on microfilm, and they have a lot of original primary source documents that aren't usually open to the public. But I got the opportunity to touch a lot of their primary source documents, specifically the original governor's dispatches, which was phenomenal. And at the end of my presentation, not at the end of mine, at the end of everyone's presentation, there are 3 documents back there that you can have a sneak peek, have a peek into. One of them is a copy of a slave register I was able to obtain, and another is a letter from Charles Farquharson to his son, James Farquharson, after a mutiny occurred on San Salvador. That's where I obtained these documents from, which is the National Archives. This is the staff of the archives, and Miss Strong is to the left, and Miss Mona Lisa Carey were very pivotal in assisting me in my research and directing me and guiding me and informed my research heavily. So I really appreciate their help. Like I said, my original visit in December 2011 was at GRC, and my second visit was here for about 2 weeks. And their purpose, they usually have people across the US come in and study their marine biology and do a lot of ecology, which is studying of insects and bugs and native plants. But I think in 2011, if I'm correct, we were possibly the first history and English course to come in and explore the plantation ruins and actually get a semi-interview from Mr. Forbes, a longtime native resident, about bush medicine, which heavily informed my project in December 2011. The second time I went, I had already formulated a few relationships with the workers at the Gerace Research Center and natives, and so I was able to conduct an interview with Miss Irma Pratt, who's 76 now, and her grandmother was a midwife and knew a lot about bush medicine. And so I'm gonna give you guys a 40-second clip of the interview I conducted with her, and just to say the least, without going to the Bahamas and obtaining this information, my project would not have expanded and grown to what it grew to, the creative writing aspect of it, because you can read in the classroom all day, you can do research online, you can get books out of the library, but this type of information I got from her was phenomenal. And to draw a little context to that, she was talking about her experiences as the grandchild of Sophia Pratt and how her grandmother would explain to her what happened during child labor as the midwife and a lot of different native bushes they used to help birth the child.
Look, go into the corn and you get some old beer bush, you know, and you put beat up some of that and rub around and around and around.
Does that help with the pain or something?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. In those days, they had peppermint. You make a cup of peppermint tea or coffee, give them that to drink, and that helps the pain deliver the baby. Because the midwife has to be right there just for
to help push the baby out.
Aye. And that's something, you know. Good, yeah,
So she was basically saying, I don't know if you guys could hear her clearly, that you use peppermint, a native bush that they have there, and you boil it, and the mother drinks it, and it helps ease the pain during childbirth. And lastly, it was a great, I'm supposed to say academic and social impact at the top. I learned a lot going to the archives. I was not prepared upon my first visit to the archives. I didn't have any emails printed out. They didn't even remember who I was. So I learned to always be prepared when you're going across the country and trying to conduct research. That would never happen again. It does say academic and social impact. Well, I learned to really stretch my imagination, and the research skills that I gained from here, I hopefully will translate into my 5th grade math class. And I'll be doing Teach for America after I leave here, and hopefully one day I'll be able to teach 8th grade history, and we'll be able to draw in a global thinking mindset into my 8th graders and research skills that they may not get until high school, into the 8th grade. And I would like to thank my donor, Mr. Triggs, who was an 1884 alum of Cornell College, the Career Engagement Center, and a lot of other folks. And that's not this slide, so I'm sorry. My future goals is to receive honors from this thesis, hopefully in about 2.5 weeks, and publish this as a short story in the far future, where I have more time to do a little bit more research to make it as accurate as possible. And yeah, I hope to one day create global thinkers in the classroom when I become a teacher. And now I would like to thank the Career Engagement Center, my donor, Catherine Stewart as my faculty sponsor, and the archives staff, and a lot of people at the Gerace Research Center and the Native people there who informed my project greatly through interviews. Thank you.